Welcome to your daily dose of TOK. So in this lesson we had a think about justification, and we started off with a flip activity where we looked at the religion of Pastafarianism. So that is actually, in some countries, New Zealand as an example, where it's actually a legally recognised religion. So in those videos they looked at, they questioned this idea about what makes a religion, and then used that as a justification for this student here actually observing Pastafarianism in his school. And you will see in those videos there's the word there, because, a lot, and we'll be coming back to that word because and how people use that to build a justification around what they do or what they claim. Just because people use the word because and it's a justification doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good justification. We then went on to have a look at optical illusions and how about the limitations and exact role of observation. So he was given an opportunity to discuss those videos, specifically what is justification, perhaps more importantly, what is a good justification when it's based on observational evidence. And then we started to think about, is it possible to identify the best ways to justify those knowledge claims? So the very famous psychological experiment by Ellen Langer. It was around a basic thing like a photocopier and just the justification for people cutting the line. And so it's that word because was very important. And it appeared that just with the use of that word because, in most people's mind, was a justification enough to let somebody move in to jump the queue. They didn't actually have to give a reason. They just had to, a valid reason, they just had to use the word because. So that brought us on to think about the concept of good and bad justifications. So from a TOK point of view, the use of the word just because is not a particularly good justification. So he looked at those three conditions. Condition 1, no justification. Condition 2, a real justification. And number 3, a fake justification. And what's interesting is that pretty much it was consistently the same. The performance for a fake justification and a real justification, that was exactly the same. There's only a 1% difference. So we thought specifically about a good justification, those that are relevant, logical, and appeal to values or shared norms. Bad justification, just irrelevant, illogical, based on false information, relying heavily on emotion and personal biases. And we'll be coming back in this course to think about the importance of emotion and especially the importance of understanding personal biases. So if you're getting the idea now that for it to be a good justification, we actually need to have a reason for that. And a lot of the default that people have will be observational evidence. And so observational evidence is a common thing. It is a major source, way that we understand our environment around us. But unfortunately, observational evidence cannot always be relied on. It seems to be very strong, it seems to be scientific, but actually in a lot of the cases it's not. So then we looked at a variety of optical illusions, and just to be clear, the reason why we're looking at these optical illusions is just to understand how easily the brain can be tricked by observational evidence. So then if we're going to start basing our justifications around evidence that you observe, we have to be very careful that that we are not affected unknowingly about these illusions. The duck one and the rabbit one is particularly important because most people can see one or the other at a particular time, but not both at the same time. So that's telling us something about how our brain works. We can think in different ways, but we can only really think in one way at a particular moment in time. We might like to think that we can see both the rabbit and the duck here at the same time, but we can't. We're actually flipping between those single states. That's going to be really important when we come back to you writing essays or extended answers and critical thinking. You can actually only think in one way at any individual point in time. So he went on to think about, again, perhaps in the area of business studies, how it's used in business studies as a marketing tool. We thought about how we are sold iPad Pros and how we are sold premium products. Some more things here. There's no such thing as pure observation. It always goes through the brain, it always goes through some filters, so we don't actually observe the environment directly. We observe the environment through the processes that are going on in our brain. So it goes through a number of those filters, and some of those filters are biologically based and some of those filters are culturally based, but everything we observe, everything that we understand is through a series of filters. One of those filters are theories, and we looked at the concept of a theory laden, fact theory ladenness, and that is a type of filter which helps us to understand and comprehend the world around us, but it is a filter that that information goes through to help people to understand. There are also values, and you may have had a look at value-laden models in geography, and we took this more comedy approach from some British comedians called Mitchell and Webb, and they looked at the concept of homeopathy and how that has values and theories around it, and those values and theories end up being a type of justification. The issue with this is that justification is not really science-based. A lot of people do think that homeopathy works. It may work in building up people's confidence. It may work with a placebo effect, but there's absolutely no scientific evidence that homeopathy does work. There's no scientific mechanism that it actually can work, but a lot of people believe in it. So observational evidence is important, but also it plays a larger importance in the sciences. It does not play such a big role in other areas of knowledge. So think about history. We cannot observe the past directly. We can only observe the past through records, through people's accounts of what was going on. So history will be an area of knowledge, but actually observational evidence is of limited importance. Then we had, I think this comes from economics or business studies, about functional drinks and how you can justify the high price of some of these functional drinks. There is very little evidence, either observational or scientific, that these functional drinks are actually worth the money, are actually better, do what they say they do, but it goes through a number of filters. It goes through people's perceptions, it goes through marketing. So all these filters are built up and up and up to justify us spending quite large amounts of money on these functional drinks. So you're given an opportunity there to contribute to a Padlet. So in this lesson review, we've had a think about justification, the nature of justification, how as human beings we have layers of justification that we build up around an idea. We had to think about the importance of observational evidence, but also its limitations, and then the different roles or the degree to which observational evidence is important for other areas of knowledge outside the natural sciences. We specifically looked at the example of history. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to do the flip activity if you can for the next lesson. That really helps to set you up to have a better learning experience next time.